For most of human history, home was not something you built, it was something you found. A rock overhang, a limestone cave mouth facing the sun, a gap between boulders that kept the freezing wind off your back. You didn't design shelter, you searched for it, just like every other animal on the planet. And then, one day, that stopped being enough. Right now, you are probably sitting somewhere with a roof over your head. You didn't build it. You didn't gather the wood. You didn't drag stone across a beach in the freezing wind. You just walked in. 400,000 years ago, that door did not exist. There was no wall between you and the world. There was only weather, and weather did not care if you lived or died. On a beach in what is now southern France, a wind came off the Mediterranean every single night. Not a gentle breeze, a cutting, relentless wind that stole heat out of a body faster than a small fire could replace it. Somewhere in that cold, a group of Homo erectus stopped doing what every animal before them had always done. They stopped searching for shelter. They started making one. This is not about intelligence in the abstract. This is about a species deciding, for the first time, that the world did not get to dictate the terms of where they slept. Think about how many decisions you make about shelter without ever thinking about them. You close a window because it's drafty. You put on a jacket before you check the weather. You don't even register these as decisions anymore. They're automatic. That automation had to be built from zero by someone on a beach in the wind 400,000 years ago. Your body still remembers the alternative, that flinch when a cold draft hits your neck, that deep animal relief when you close a door against the rain. That's not sentiment. That's 400,000 years of muscle memory for a threat you will, statistically, never face again. Here's the trade nobody signed up for. Humans are biologically, almost comically, underprepared for the outdoors. No fur thick enough to block wind. No hide tough enough to shrug off rain. No natural burrow. Compared to almost every other mammal on that beach, the human body was standing there nearly naked, in a system built by natural selection, a very slow, very ruthless optimization algorithm that had spent millions of years optimizing us for something else entirely. We didn't get shelter. We got sweat glands and long legs and the ability to run prey into exhaustion under a brutal sun. That's an incredible piece of engineering, by the way. A body that can chase an animal for hours in open heat until it simply collapses while we're still upright and moving. Almost nothing else on the planet can do that. Great trade during the day. Catastrophic trade the second the sun went down. That's the deal evolution cut. Cooling efficiency during the hunt in exchange for almost nothing to protect you once the heat left the sky. So the cold didn't just make people uncomfortable, it made them vulnerable in a very literal sense. A human losing core temperature overnight, exposed on open ground, was running a system failure with no backup power. No fur to trap warmth, no layer of fat thick enough to matter. Just skin, and whatever the group decided to do about it. Something had to fill that gap. Nature wasn't going to fill it. Fur wasn't coming back. Evolution doesn't refund bad trades, so they built the gap themselves. Picture the actual labor, heavy stones, dragged one at a time, arranged into a rough oval on the sand. Not decoration, foundation. Something the wind couldn't just push over the second it picked up. This alone took hours. There was no wheelbarrow, no rope that wasn't hand braided, just bodies, hauling weight across sand, again and again, until a shape started to exist that hadn't existed that morning. Then branches, dragged from wherever wood could be found, angled inward, lashed and leaned against each other until they held their own weight. Get the angle wrong, and the whole thing collapses the first time the wind gusts. Get it right, and you've built something that fights gravity and weather at the same time, without a single nail, without a single tool beyond what a hand can hold. This wasn't a cave they stumbled into. A cave is luck. This was a structure they designed from nothing, using only what their hands could carry and their arms could lift. Every stone placed was a small, stubborn argument with the wind. Not tonight. A frame alone doesn't block wind. Wind moves through gaps, finds the smallest opening, and undoes an entire night's work in seconds. So skins went over the branches. Hides from animals they had already killed for food, repurposed now for warmth instead of nourishment. Nothing was wasted. The same creature that fed the group for a week now kept the group alive at night, long after the meat was gone, stretched, weighted down at the edges, layered where the wind hit hardest. Anywhere a gap opened, another hide went over it. This was trial and error played out in real time, with cold as the only feedback system. Get it wrong, and you feel it at 3 in the morning. Get it right, and you sleep. The structure wasn't just wood anymore. It was wood wrapped in what used to be an animal's own defense against the cold. Inherited secondhand, repurposed for a body that never grew its own. Think about that exchange for a second. An animal spends its whole life growing a coat built for exactly this climate. It dies, and the very thing that kept it alive becomes the thing that keeps you alive. Nothing wasted, nothing thrown away, just one survival system handed down to another. Outside, a fire fights the whole night by itself. Wind scatters the heat before it reaches you. Rain threatens to kill it outright, and once it's out, and you're back to nothing. Bring that fire inside the walls, and the math changes completely. Now the structure isn't just blocking wind, it's holding heat in a contained space, the way cupped hands hold warmth better than open ones. The fire and the walls were doing the same job, together, instead of the fire fighting alone against an open sky. The walls stopped the heat from escaping. The fire had nowhere else to go but into the people sitting around it. Smoke stung the eyes. Nobody cared. A stinging eye is a small price for a spine that isn't shaking at 3 in the morning. This is the first time in human history that shelter and heat stopped being two separate problems and became one system built on purpose by people who understood, even without a single word for physics, that walls and fire work better as a team than as two lonely defenses against the same enemy. That's not an accident. That's design. You are not weak for wanting a roof. You are not soft for hating the cold. That shelter on a French beach 400,000 years ago wasn't a lifestyle upgrade. It was survival, engineered by hand, out of stone and branches and animal hide, by a species with no fur and no plan except the one they built themselves. Every wall you've ever stood behind is an inheritance from people who had none and decided that wasn't acceptable. Every roof over your head tonight is the end of a 400,000-year argument with the wind. An argument our ancestors started winning long before they had a word for home. We didn't outgrow the need for shelter. We just outsourced the building of it.